and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in
Welcome to Platos Cave, coming to you from Australia for Revolution Radio on revolution.radio. That's right. This is Listener Fun Radio, which means you, the listener, have the purse strings in your hands. So if you can donate, please do. Any kind of currency is good, including crypto. Maybe you can't donate. And I'm looking at the world economic situation that's becoming more likely every day. Tell people about the station. Tell them, come to the station. They come to our specific show if they like. Platos Cave. Shiny side out. Maybe you see us in the wild, in some kind of platform, and like, subscribe. It all helps. It's all good. YouTube seems to hate us, which is funny. So just prove YouTube wrong and come to our channel. Look at all our shorts and videos. Just let them play in the background. That's all you have to do. You can listen to us on any given platform, or live right now if you're listening on the radio. That's pretty cool, including a Grace tabletop digital radio if you're at home snuggled up with a warm cup of cocoa, not too hot, too cold. But before we start broadcasting at you in anger, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land from which we broadcast, and for Dave.
It's the Dark and Jung.
Thank you, sir. For myself, of course, the Darak people. I have to apologize for not being here on Tuesday. I suffered old man's disease. I fell asleep. I fell asleep at my desk right here. So I was like, I don't know what I looked like, to be honest. And my phone was downstairs where I'm charging my electronic equipment.
Where I was madly texting you.
Which is completely pointless at that point. And then I woke up. I came upstairs because I had to prep my machine, make sure Discord works, blah, blah, blah. I do that usually these days 45 minutes to half an hour before, right? Just in case. And I was sitting here and just, I don't know, YouTubing or something. I can't remember. And I must have knocked out. And I woke up, I think it might have been after midnight.
Mm-hmm.
And my neck was a bit stiff, but anyway, here we are. And I tell you what, Dave, I don't know what you talked about on Tuesday, but I do know that if anybody in this world still doubts me when I say that Donald Trump is in the back pocket of both Putin and Netanyahu, and I mean Putin and Netanyahu, I don't mean Russia and Israel. That's not what I'm talking about. If you still think that's not the case, you've been living under a rock. So there was this meeting. In the meeting, Mr. Trump, president, became the echo chamber, the bullhorn, the
blowhard
of Russia, the blowhard of everything that Putin wanted.
Mm-hmm.
He repeated all of Putin's points. He prepped the world to say, oh yeah, we're going to the Donetsk region and the Crimea all have to give all that up, and it was astounding. It was astounding. This nothing, and I have to control myself, but nothing that Donald Trump has done since he's become president again, okay, explains in any way why he loves Russia so much, or Putin. There's nothing. There's no logical reasons for any of the things that he's done for Russia or not against Russia that makes any sense in any geopolitical framework. None. It's in fact it's it's worse now. It's so bad that people think of him as a lapdog to Putin. You know, he embarrassed America. Some people, some analysts say, etc., etc. Of course, his own people can't say that. But I'm not really partisan. I'm not. I don't care. I've already told you guys that I think party politics has failed as a thing, especially if you've got a two-party system or de facto two-party system. None of that works. It's complete nonsense. We have to get rid of it.
To be honest, Mackie, we've given it a red hot go, and we've whipped the dog or whipped the horse till it's unalived, and we're dragging it with us now on a journey into fascism. That's all I can say.
Yeah, in many ways that's correct. It's autocratic. It's an autocratic form of government. Fascism, yeah, you could say that, though we haven't seen the racist... Oh, actually, it's not entirely true.
Yeah. Tick. Can I tick the box? I'm going to tick the box there.
Sure.
Uh-huh.
In 2016, I said on the air, if Donald Trump is elected, right, then Americans will get something that they've never had before, which was true.
True.
Donald Trump was a president that hadn't been like there before. And look, he was a first-time president. He didn't know the Hill. He didn't know Washington. So a lot of things didn't go his way. And then COVID happened. That really put the kibosh on his stuff as well. So look, you can chalk it up to inexperience, to bad luck, a whole bunch of stuff. But you can't hold it against the guy. I don't like him, but his presidency was influenced largely by outside factors beyond his control, as well as his inexperience and the ever-evolving door of his staff. The second time around, though, the American people knew what they were getting, more or less. But even they were surprised with the speed with which Donald Trump was moving. And he has done amazing things. We all know he's a misogynist. We know he's been accused of sexual assault. We know he settled a lot of cases like that out of court, right? You don't settle if you're not guilty. So anyway, but that's neither here nor there. He is a terrible businessman. He bankrupted most of his businesses, including the one business in the world that's a license to print money, and that's a casino. I don't know how you can bankrupt a casino. I really don't. Unless you just close the doors and give everybody their money back. Right? It just doesn't make any sense. But so we knew all of this about him. That's all been known. But he's achieved new heights of incredulity. He's now said we shouldn't focus on the bad things in history. So he's now, I guess, whitewashing is probably not too bad.
Well, the winner always changes the history books. So yeah. But
see, this is well, but the winner at what here? He's upset that the museums, especially Smithsonian, are focusing on the negative aspects of slavery. They're focusing too much in Donald Trump's mind on the negative aspects of slavery. What are the positive aspects? I'm sorry, what? It's like, I mean, this is just complete insanity. Slavery, I think we can all agree, is not something that we like, especially if we are the slave. Okay?
Yeah, I have a point. I've got a point to make on this one. We have slavery right now. We do. And not just the 13 million that the world, understands and estimates is currently going on. We have another form of slavery. And I'm not going to be all leftist here and complain about, the working for the man and, never, the whole thing's designed for us to actually fail and never succeed. And none of that. I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is, in the world right now, we have forced labor. And you're going to hear it. When you realize what I mean, you'll be surprised. We all know from a long, long time ago that American prisoners make goods. And are they paid their wage? No. Do they make license plates? Yes. Do they make name tags and helmets and body armor for the military? Absolutely. They make those things. They're in jail. They're not paid a wage like we would understand a wage to be in the Western world. They're paid a wage that's probably less than working in the poorest countries. We accept it. Yes, and we don't question it. We accept it. And it's such a disaster. And these are privately run prisons, mind you, not even government run prisons. And we allow it. And you know the rebate that people were getting by incarcerating somebody because it's financial to have someone incarcerated? It's not running at a loss. Their output is extraordinary. So I had to say that because I thought we had left it long ago. The bad points of slavery are still today in people's minds, but they ignore the elephant in the room and that we're currently doing it. And we accept it. Isn't it nuts?
Well, I don't see this is where I'm not sure that we're accepting it, because you quite rightly pointed out that yes, it is going on today, but a lot of people either don't know genuinely, right? They just don't know because it's not really publicized that well. I mean, I have to be honest, right? You have to dig for this information. And secondly, maybe they don't want to know about it. So I think there's ignorance, and then there's willful ignorance, and then there's another group where it's just too hard. It's too hard to think about it. It's too sad. And a small minority, in my opinion, actually want to change it. They're actually trying to do something about it.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you're right. It's a problem that's there now, and nothing has changed in the thousands of years that we have had slavery. The Roman Republic was pretty much built on slave labor. That's a fact. The Greeks had slaves. Slavery, and I guess you can call bondage or bonded labor slavery as well, has been around forever. And only in recent times, do we deem it unacceptable. So there are no slave markets openly that we know about. I mean, they exist, but you don't see them. It's not a thing that people would go to. In fact, the Islamic State brought back slave markets. If you didn't know that.
Wow. I'm not going for a trip down to Bunnings. That's our Walmart, for instance, but we don't have furniture in it. Not so much furniture. And I'll get a hammer. I've got to get a table saw. Oh, and a slave. Yeah. We're not.
It's good. Just,
As long as there's a barbecue out the front where I can get my sausage. Right.
That's it. The democracy sausage.
Yeah.
No, but honestly though, that's where we are, right? This is what's happening on a global scale. But again, it's not advertised, so most people don't know about it. That's okay. But there's nothing positive about slavery. There's nothing. There's nothing that would recommend the practice to anyone, except, of course, the profit motive. And see, this is the problem, right?
Now you're talking profit. Woo!
You don't pay slaves. You just
as long as they live to work another day.
Yeah,
great.
Feed them enough. You abuse them as much as you like. I mean, that's the whole point of being as a slave. You're a non-person. You have to understand this. You're a non-person. You're like piece of furniture, really, like livestock, maybe even less so. But the point is this: Donald Trump now wants the museums to focus on the maybe, I don't know,
the good times,
the achievements that maybe ex-slaves had, or how great the economy was in the South when they had slave labor. I'm a little lost here as to what he's trying to achieve. There was a whitewashing of the army, where things were renamed and certain references to colored people, to women, to LGBTQ people, they're all removed from the website, including the Enola Gay. That's funny. So it worries me. This is just insanity. It's complete insanity. And the funny thing is this: I think what we're seeing right now, a lot of the people, not non-white people, I should say, even though I think white people are regretting as well. I think a lot of the non-white people are regretting having voted for Trump, and he knows this, and that's why he's redrawing the districts, the voting districts in Texas and other places, which will allow him to have more seats in Congress. Right? This is the only way he knows. This is the only way he can beat the upcoming midterms.
It's funny, Becky, because they do that here as well. They redraw the seats to try and get gain. Yeah.
To get rid of the independents. And but see, here the two parties collude. Mm-hmm. So let me explain this. Slightly different situation in Australia. So in Australia, two-party system, Labour, Liberal, plus coalition, Greens and Democrats. But that's beside the point. But
the Nationals.
We've seen in recent years, there's been but they don't count. There's been a surge of independent members of parliament.
That's right.
This is the national parliament. And so what they're doing now, so that actually a couple of things they've done. One, they made it a lot harder for an independent to even enter the race.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's like finances, etc. It made it a lot harder. And they've redrawn some of the districts, the voting districts, to favor one or the other party. And they've colluded in this.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see this is the whole system is rigged. It's not like, hey, I'm Labour and I want to defeat Liberal. I want to be a Labour person. I'm going to bring on Labour policies, so I'll do what I can to do that. No. My first and foremost point of action is I maintain, preserve, extend the life of the system that I'm in, which is two-party. Thank you very much. Independence. We don't need you. Bye-bye. That's what we have. Now, it's slightly different in America, where the two parties really are at loggerheads. Now, does it make a difference to the American people who's in power? In this case, it actually did. I'm surprised, Dave. But having Donald Trump in power made a massive difference to the American people. There's some really good things, in my opinion. This is just my opinion here, right? There's some really good things his administration has done, right? I mean, I'm all for girls and girls sports and boys sports.
Mm-hmm.
That's me. I'm old-fashioned. Maybe I'm a regressive conservative there. I don't know. Whatever.
It's pulling it's pulling the pendulum back from how crazy it had become.
Yeah, and I like that he's made Coca-Cola use cane sugar again.
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea that he's taken all the sugary treats and such out of schools. I hear that's the thing that's happening.
Yeah.
But so these are good things. There's not nobody would argue, or even getting gang members deported. Nobody would argue with that. I mean, you'd be an idiot to argue with that. But, and this is a big but, in an administration which largely consists of non-Washington insiders, so there are people there that don't really know how Washington works. Some do, some don't. But the majority of the people that have been put into positions of power are unqualified, and they're made up of two kinds of people. One, billionaires, which are his buddies. Two, Fox
anchors. That's right.
Which is hilarious. So completely unqualified. With Don Bongiorno, we're now seeing that he's unqualified because he's getting a deputy FBI director to work with him. That has never happened before. This is the first time there has been a second deputy director of the FBI.
Well, you could call it an FBI handler, but that doesn't matter.
This is a clear signal that they don't think that he can do his job, but they can't really fire him, right?
That's right.
So that's a big problem. Another problem is, of course, that a lot of the people that are in these positions are completely unqualified. And if you look at all the things that have happened, and I'm looking here firmly at what's happening in the Ukraine, I'm looking at the big bill that was passed, which did give a tax cut, be clear, to the super wealthy. A huge tax cut.
Yeah,
and it was paid
they need to spend more money.
By two things. It was paid for by two things. One, the tariffs, and I'll talk about that in a second. And two, by cuts to Medicare, Medicaid. Okay, taking millions of Americans off health insurance. Now, the state of American, I guess the health system, the public health system is already woeful, right? It's been horrible. And living in Australia, having lived in Germany before that all my life, where healthcare, it didn't even occur to me that I wouldn't be able to have healthcare when I was living, or as I'm living here in Australia, or live in Germany, because it's just you have it. It's just there for you. It's it's something that everybody chips into, and everybody gets top-notch care and it's affordable care, more to the point. Whereas in America, it's completely upside down. But the tariffs, okay, so the tariffs, and again, the last time tariffs were deployed in this fashion in the world, in America, was during or just before the Great Depression. Okay, didn't work then. It's not going to work now. American people are being double, triple, and quadruple taxed. They're losing their health care. They have to pay whatever taxes they pay, but now they also have to pay tariffs, which is an indirect tax. What does that mean? An indirect tax is money you pay to the government when you buy something. It doesn't tell you necessarily that you're paying for it. So it's not a sales tax. They'll tell you about the sales tax, right? Because they have to. But the tariff is just slapped on by the importer, by the person that sells it to you, having it imported into America. Okay, and they don't have to show that. But a lot of Walmart and a lot of the big companies in the States have already said we have to increase our prices by 20, 30, 40% because of the tariffs. It's just how it is. And even when you think it's made in America, it will have component parts that are not from America. Even if you bring car manufacturing back to America, and good luck with that, there's not enough steel and aluminum produced in America to produce the cars that are required for export, import, whatever. America doesn't have enough raw materials, so that's why they're importing it. So to put tariffs on these things is complete insanity, right? And Donald Trump, as I said before, he doesn't understand math. This is, and again, I know I've said it, but it's in my mind, and it worries me a lot. Simple math. He doesn't have a grasp on it. Percentages. I'm going to reduce medications by 600, 700, 1,000%. I said it before, I'll say it again. $1, something costs $1, that's 100% of the cost. You reduce the cost by 50%, it'll now cost 50 cents. You reduce it by 75%, it now costs 25 cents. You reduce it by 99%, it now costs 1 cent. You reduce it by 100%, it's now free. You reduce it by 1,000%. 1,000%, the pharmacy is now paying you $10.
Just to take it away.
Okay? So it's, I mean, the mind boggles, right? And now, but I really am, I have to come back to Ukraine. There's no way in the universe that any leader of any nation, forget President of the United States, would have handled or would be handling the Putin situation the way Trump is handling it. Not a chance. See, I said to you before, Dave, you know, these sanctions, these tougher measures against Putin, none of them will materialize. None of them will happen. Mm-hmm. And guess what? They're not.
That's
and
right.
Going forward, they won't. And the Kremlin has already signaled that they really have no interest in peace talks. The fundamental position that Putin has vis-a-vis Ukraine is that it should be part of Russia, full stop. There is no Ukraine. There are no Ukrainians. This is Russia. Thank you very much. Okay? It's the same that Netanyahu and his ultra-right-wing, you know, to the right of Hitler, cronies think about the Palestinians. There are no Palestinians. How can there be a Palestine when there are no Palestinians? They have now killed in excess of 60,000 Palestinians. Now, let's do quick math here. 2 million Palestinians in Gaza, thereabouts, 2 million, right? That's how many there are. They've killed 60,000. That's 3% of the population. Okay? 3% of the population they've killed. At what point do you call it genocide? What percentage do you have to reach before you call an action genocide? As a percentage. I'm curious. I really am. At what point?
I'm just going to throw some numbers out here, Mickey, and that is you've got to go back in time. Oh, I don't know. November of last year would have been enough before it became genocide. November, Mickey. Just a couple of weeks in. 3 weeks after the October 7th. That's enough. Back out.
But we're not there.
No.
In fact, they're doubling down. They're doubling down.
They're going to take Gaza now.
Oh no, Gaza is gone. Gaza is that's policy now, right?
Yeah.
Gaza City, they have called up 60,000 extra troops to go into Gaza. Mm-hmm. By the way, Russia is doing the same thing, calling up more and more troops. But the thing is this is no longer confined to Gaza. This is now also on the West Bank. There have been increased violent and deadly attacks by settlers, Jewish settlers, on West Bank inhabitants. So the West Bank is also Palestinian, if you will. And more illegal settlements are coming up, and more violent attacks are happening, which are not being suppressed by anyone. There's no one there. And you know what the funny thing is? I listened to this security advisor, Israeli security advisor to Netanyahu on the radio, and he was asked by the lady interviewing him, why don't you allow journalists in? And he goes, "Well, come on in. You can come in. Come in. You know, come anytime you want. You can come in." Now, this is a complete nonsense because no journalists are allowed in, and they're targeting journalists. They've killed the native Palestinian journalists. They're targeting Al Jazeera correspondents. They're killing the journalists on purpose. They're killing the medical personnel on purpose. They're destroying the medical infrastructure. Okay? Now, that's genocide. Any which way you slice and dice it, this is now full-blown genocide. This is something that Israel will never live down. Especially Israel. Okay, when everything is said and done, in 10 years' time, in 15, 20 years' time, whatever, when we will know exactly how many people were killed, and by the way, the 60,000 is, some believe, a massive understatement, right? Once we know how many people have been killed, maybe they killed them all. Who knows? Israel is going to be a pariah state. You imagine this for a second. Let's say World War II had gone a different way. Let's say World War II, there was Germany wasn't defeated. There was an armistice and a peace negotiation, etc. Right? But everybody knew that 6 million Jews and millions of gays and communists and gypsies, etc., had been killed in Germany because that came out, because the concentration camps were open, etc. When do you think? In a peace environment, when do you think Germany would ever live that down? Even now that when Germany was defeated and there was like the denazification, initiative undertaken, at least in West Germany, to get rid of all the Nazis, Germany still hasn't lived down World War II and the genocide. Still, to this day, it's 80 years. Right? No, not yet. Not yet. In fact, it'll probably never be lived down. It's too much. And if Israel now follows the same course, right? If a people consists of 2 million members, 3 million members, and you kill them all, that's genocide. The number is irrelevant. The extinguishing of the people is important. Even if the Palestinian people consisted of 100,000, for example, let's say for argument's sake, right? If you kill all 100,000, that's genocide. Right? That's genocide. And we're all sitting on our hands. Yeah, well, it's happening. We're sitting on our hands about the Ukraine. America is not supplying the Ukraine with weapons. That's not true. It's just not true. What happens is America is selling its weapon systems to the European nations, who then are free to do whatever they want, and what they do is they pass it on to the Ukraine. That's what's happening. Okay? If Russia takes the Ukraine, it will not be the last thing they do.
No.
Appeasement didn't work with Hitler, and appeasement will not work with Russia. Why? Hitler had a vision. Love him, hate him, I don't care. But he had a vision. His vision was the greater German Empire. That's what he wanted. Right? He wanted a 1,000-year German Empire. That was his vision. Right? Didn't last that long, but it was pretty big at its height. Putin has the same thing. He wants to bring back the glory of the Soviet
That's right.
Union. That's where he grew up. He was a KGB agent, for crying out loud. Look at his biography.
KGB.
Look at Trump's KGB. Look at Trump's biography. Not from one source. Get many sources. Same with Putin. Get many sources and read them, or watch the movie or documentary, or whatever your medium is. I don't care. But learn about these. This is important. If you don't learn about these men, and they're men, you're lost. You don't know what's going on. Putin will not stop until either he's dead or he has done everything he can to achieve Russian glory again. That's his legacy in his mind. He wants to bring back the respect, the glory. You know what I mean? And the truth is this: if you look at Russia, they came from an agrarian society. In mere decades, they made it to an industrial powerhouse. Not great, but pretty good. Enough to stop the German army in its advance.
Mm-hmm.
Enough after World War II to win the space race. First satellite in space, Russian, Sputnik. First animal in space, Russian, little dog. First man in space, Yuri Gagarin. The Americans hadn't even launched a rocket yet.
I thought they also had the first humans to orbit the moon. I thought as well. They never landed there.
It's possible. The landing was the Americans. Now it shattered the Americans. Kennedy was, good Lord, look at this. I mean, the Russians are, because the Americans were terrified that the Russians would supremacy in space, essentially, right? And then they would push, and lots of money invested in moon landings, etc., etc. If you believe them or not, doesn't really matter. We have been to the moon, maybe not the first time that we said we did, but anyway. Point here is this: the Russians were leading in this field, okay, and they were ruling with an iron fist. Any revolutionary ambitions that anybody had, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, they came in with tanks and a bloody fist. They absolutely did not tolerate any dissent. And then a lot of proxy wars were fought, you can say, between China and the US, which was Korea, Vietnam, of course, Russia and America, Afghanistan, Russia and America, and there are many other proxy wars, Africa, South America, etc., etc. But never direct, right? But this is not going to stop. Just he will take whatever he'll take, and then he'll take more. The Europeans, all right, maybe they needed a wake-up call from Trump, so thank you, Trump. That was a good thing. Another good thing I think he did, he gave the Europeans a bit of a, hey, you can't rely on me. And the Europeans goes, geez, maybe we really can't rely on you. Now that's bad for America. So Trump said, you got to fight your own wars. You got to do what you need to do. So America has lost a lot of ground in the world in a very short time. And the Europeans are now looking to do it themselves, and they can and they will. And Poland is leading the charge there. Make no mistake, the Europeans can fight a war with Russia easily. If Russia can't defeat the Ukraine, the combined force of Europe is enough to stop Putin in his tracks, right? But do we want this? And then there's of course the question of nuclear war, right? Is that on the cards, right? And maybe if you're Putin, then maybe you don't care. Maybe you would go there. Who knows? I think Trump would, because we no longer have rational actors, Dave. Rational actors are out the window. Neither America nor Russia has a rational actor. North Korea doesn't have a rational actor. I think the most rational actor in that powerhouse of nations is probably Xi Jinping in China, right? Because he also has a vision for China, and it doesn't include a war. Okay, yeah, he wants Taiwan back, sure enough, but I don't think he would to war with America unless it was a very opportune moment, because he's got 1.4 billion Chinese people to worry about, and right now he's winning. He's not doing anything, and he's winning. China is stepping into the breach wherever America's leaving off, or like wherever the funds are cut, US aid, blah blah blah. China is stepping in. It couldn't go better for China right now. Donald Trump is doing what China couldn't do at all. He's opened all the doors for China. Okay, let's be very clear. And China is an economic powerhouse. Doesn't really need the West. I've been to China, and I look around. They don't need the West. They don't. They're quite self-sufficient. Thank you very much. Right? It's a really interesting mindset that way. India's a bit different, but China, they're quite happy. They would be quite happy just being left alone by themselves. But they're now a global powerhouse. I look at the situation, and I know Dave and I spend a lot of time on this, but it is the most critical thing to think about right now. Even though, in my mind, it's a red herring. And I'll tell you why. So, Skinwalker Ranch, I think I've said this, they found ceramic material, a plate, with a herringbone pattern or an edge pattern on one side, that showed extremely strange magnetic properties. And it seems that thing is a superconductor at room temperature. Now, if you're not familiar with physics or more complex engineering, that's completely unbelievable. The best we can do with superconductors is have them at near absolute zero, which is 0 Kelvin, right? Near absolute zero. And that's the only time they become superconductors. But this material seems to be a superconductor at ambient room temperature. Not only that, that material showed up in the spoils of the drilling operation at the mesa at the farm. 400 feet or so, which is about 250 meters, something like that, into the mesa, into the sandstone. They extracted this material, and they looked under an electron microscope, and it seems the electron microscope damaged it somehow, but then they looked at it again, and it had healed itself. This material healed itself. Hello? Why is this not front page news, Dave? Why is this not front page news? Hey, can I say something else? Today I had a discussion at lunch with a couple of my colleagues. I'm sorry I couldn't make it to the city, buddy. But I'll definitely be in the city next week. This is what we discussed a whole bunch of stuff, but we also talked about free energy and how what does it mean and why don't we have it, etc., etc. So I did a little bit of googling, and we're gonna have a show on this, by the way. But just doing 5 minutes of googling, if you will, I found this list, and I give you this list here. I'm just gonna quickly read it down. These are all okay. Stanley Meyer, you all heard of him, died after dining at a restaurant. Cause of death disputed. Tom Ogle, warehouse burned down under mysterious circumstances. Francisco Pavon allegedly died of respiratory disease after his car was confiscated. Azad Bakun died under suspicious circumstances. Paul Pantone, production plant caught fire. Eugene Malov, murdered in a brutal beating during alleged robbery attempt. Andrew Kazolnikov died of poisoning after business meeting. Todd Gestein died in a suspicious house fire that burned his prototypes and research. Jihan Goktepe died in a car crash after his apartment was broken into and his prototype stolen. Peter Moranov narrowly survived being hit by a car on a zebra crossing after refusing to sell his patents. Dr. Jonathan Halsey died under very suspicious circumstances in Florida while working on advanced traveling wave reactor technology. Bill Yellon died suddenly shortly after announcing his invention of a solid-state electromagnetic wave over unity device. Meaning over unity means it creates energy out of nothing. Mm-hmm. Whenever you have over unity means it seems to suck the energy from somewhere. Mm-hmm. Adam Rashid died of a suspected stroke shortly after being threatened for his work on cheap tabletop fusion reactor designs. Stefan Marinov found dead in a grate under suspicious circumstances while working on electromagnetic rotation of cylinders filled with electrolyte. Again, free energy machine. John Seal. His lab was raided by authorities and his generators were smashed. Stanley Rubik. Allegedly raided by the FBI and his devices smashed on camera. Valery Bokharyov, found dead in suspicious circumstances while working on thorium-based nuclear reactors. We discussed thorium. It's the way for the future. John Bendini, his rental house burned down under suspicious circumstances. Gary Vesperman, found dead of unknown causes in his office while compiling a list of inventors with alternative energy devices who died prematurely. Oh, I didn't read that one before. That's not so good. Can I read that one again, Dave? Gary Vesperman, found dead of unknown causes in his office while compiling a list of inventors with alternative energy devices who died prematurely.
You shouldn't be Googling it. That's what they're telling you.
Roger Green, his house was burned down in an arson after announcing his motorhome conversion technology. Rob Drudge, car was forced off the road, leaving him paralyzed until his death.
Classic.
House, his home was raided and deceased before his death while working on low-energy nuclear waste cleanup method using gamma rays. And finally, Franciscus Galloway died of radiation poisoning under suspicious circumstances while promoting zero-point energy extraction devices. This were 23 people I've just mentioned. 23 people. All died within in the last 30, most of them in the last 30 years, except for one. Now, that doesn't make the news. Skinwalker Ranch discoveries don't make the news. Those are things that would fundamentally change the way our civilization works. Forget deep state. Forget Republican and Democrat. Forget billionaires. Always. Oh, sorry. I'm not always ragging on the U.S. I'm ragging on people that bringing down the world, my friend. So Flatty, in Australia, we actually have a worse system than yours. Ours is an official two-party system, right, Flatty? It's officially two-party, which is much worse, right? And now they're colluding to keep the independents out. But what happens in Australia doesn't have global repercussions. Nobody cares what happens in Australia.
That's right.
To be honest with you, apart from Pine Gap, maybe. But what happens in America is of global and fundamental importance, as we can see now, right? I mean, I say give him his Nobel Peace Prize. Give it to him, because Obama certainly didn't deserve it. He didn't deserve it. He didn't do anything, right? If the same criteria apply, then Donald Trump, give it to him. Why not? And then, maybe there'll be peace in Ukraine. Who knows? No, but the truth is this, right? We are being led away from thinking the thoughts that we should be thinking and worrying about the things we should be worrying about. We need to be very clear that the things they steer us away from other things that are important. Free energy. I want to say it one more time. Free energy will fundamentally change everything. Our civilization, our society, everything. Everything. Imagine you can heat and cool your home, you can cook, you can run your appliances, you can drive your car or whatever you have, fly your plane, and you don't have to pay anything to anyone ever. Right? Now, and this goes on if you think about it, because once you got free energy, right? Energy meta conversion might become possible. We would no longer really have scarcity because resources are limitless, right? We could apply them, so anybody can just do what they want. I mean, people do want to be farmers; they like it, and people do it even though it's hard. Imagine if it was a lot easier; they would have a much better. I mean, it would only. The disruptive effect would only last for a little while, if at all, right? If people could switch quickly, everybody gets the little devices, whatever they might be, to power everything. Just imagine that. Just imagine the world that we would live in. And all the billionaires would just disappear. We don't need them anymore, thank you very much. You could make a car of your design in your home, even a flying machine if you really wanted to, right? If you wanted to, you could. It's fantastic. The mind boggles as to what could be achieved with, right? And yet we ignore the death of these 20-odd researchers completely. We ignore the things they're finding on Skinwalker Ranch. And I know a lot of people out there think it's hoax and bokum. I don't think so. I've done a lot of deep research into those guys. I've watched not just the show, but every scrap of footage I can find about them, and they take a lot. They actually take part in quite a lot of, I guess, forums. You know, like it's almost like Comic-Con, but it's not. You know, where they talk freely, and I also understand the relationships they all have with each other, right? And a lot of these people have known each other since childhood, right? Including Brendan Fugel and Dragon, the head of security. They were childhood friends, and like I think I said this. They went on their Mormon tour together. You know, when Mormons go out to proselytize in the world, they went together as teenagers. So I believe them, and the stuff they're finding is astounding. And I have the utmost respect for Brendan Fugel to actually make it public, rather than keeping it all close to your chest like Bigelow did. Like, we still don't know what Bigelow found or didn't find. No idea. We do know that he had more than one place, and we do know that he clearly found something, and he also had some encounters that really terrified him. That's all we know, though, right? So that's the stuff that we should be looking at. That's the stuff we should be concerned with, and not only that, the things that Graham Hancock talks about. And not just Graham Hancock. He's just the most recent one, and I really like that he got a chance to create a two season series on these mysterious things. And he doesn't have to be right about everything, but I do believe he's right about a lot of things. And I say this because there's physical evidence for it, right? And I also know there's a knowledge filter, and I know that scientists have been actively discouraged from looking at certain things, and they've been destroyed for publishing findings that didn't fit the paradigm, right? And there's a knowledge filter, and there's an agency that is shifting us away from certain topics of investigation, right? And I guarantee you, the more we look into this and the more evidence we find, the further and further the age of humanity will be pushed back into the dim and distant past. To the point, and I know this is a big call, where I think Homo erectus is going to be contemporary to Homo sapiens. Okay? Because for the longest time we thought Homo neanderthalensis or Neanderthal was an ancestor of ours, right? And only fairly recently do we realize that no, they actually are contemporaries. And I think we're going to find the same thing with Homo erectus, as we find more and more evidence for more and more things, especially the stuff that the Smithsonian has spirited away, and maybe even the Vatican. See, this is what upsets me, Dave. We fill our heads with all the nonsense, and this is not even the worst. The worst stuff is like reality shows, The Bachelor and whatever they're called, right? Where this just, or Mr. Beast. There's absolutely zero value in what Mr. Beast does, but he's the biggest YouTuber, right, in the world, I think. But what he does is complete fluff nonsense, and in fact, it'll rot your brain. I have no respect for that guy at all, except for the fact that he managed to game the system in his favor, which good on you. But what he does is actually detrimental to our society. It is completely undermining everything that could be good about the internet, right? Because it's complete bladder bloat. There's no value to his content at all. None. Zero. It's like people watching a car crash. That's what this is. Fascinating. And you know, Dave, you get a sticky because there's an accident on the road. The traffic slows down, not because of the accident, but because of the sticky beaks that want to see, did someone get killed? What happened here? Ooh, this is interesting. Right? That's what that is.
In America, they're called rubbernecking.
Yeah, that's it.
So I wanted to bring something to your attention. A judge has rejected Trump's administration's bid to unseal Jeffrey Epstein grand jury transcripts. Isn't that a crazy thing?
No,
not
really.
I know. I expect no one is ever going to let any of this out into the wild.
Dave, no. You don't understand. Let me explain. So there's nothing in the grand jury testimony that would help us here understanding any more stuff, right? And the reason it's still under seal is because they need to protect the actual victims. But there's nothing in there that would help us. The only thing that would help us, and by the way, this has never happened. Nobody has ever unsealed any grand jury testimony ever. That has never happened, right? So that's why I didn't think it would happen in this case. And it's not because they're hiding stuff that's in the grand jury testimony. That's not why, right? The real stuff that we need is with the Russians and with the Israelis, and maybe some of it is with the CIA and FBI, very little though, I'd say. And it's the files that not Tulsi Gabbard, but Pam Bondi referred to.
Mm-hmm.
And things like that, right? But the thing is this: there's nothing. I don't think there's anything sinister about not unsealing the grand jury thing, because again, this has never happened. Nobody's ever unsealed. This was a red herring. This was just another red herring to distract, because there would be nothing in the grand jury testimony that would help us here at all. Okay, what we need to do, or what we need to know, is who were his customers. Let's call it, right? Who were his customers? Who were the people that were fingered, that went to his island and partook in these things? Because they're pictures. We know they're pictures because the victims have told us they're pictures, because they had to come in and identify themselves with these men. Yeah, that's me, or whatever, right? Or yeah, that's the man that that raped me, or whatever the case is. We know that happened. Right? That is the stuff that will never come out. Why? Because this is not partisan. It's not bad for the Democrats. It's not bad for the Republicans. It's bad for everybody. The entire parasitic elite, if you want to call them that, partook here. They all did. All the parasites. They all did. That's why this will never be unsealed unless there's a massive change in the way we do things. Because if this ever came out, and all the real names came out, and if you look at Prince Andrew, that's just the tip of the iceberg. But think about this. Prince Andrew, part of the British royal family, he was mixed up here. And if you look at all the pictures that Epstein took with all the people, right? And I'm not saying they're all guilty. Not at all. Right? But some of them very well might be. And some of them might never have taken a picture with him because they're not stupid. Right? So, just to be very clear, this has the potential to break Trump's neck. And for the life of me, I don't understand why he doesn't just come clean with everything. Right? Now, the problem, of course, is that he can't come clean because the Russians and the Israelis have all the dirt on him. Right? And if that came out, I mean, think about this. What president of the United States has ever kowtowed to Russia? Nobody. He's the first one, the only one. And only because they have to do it. Doesn't mean he's an operative for them? Not really. He's not an operative. He's a victim, if anything. He's a victim of the system. Or maybe victim in the sense that he put himself in a position that he shouldn't have been in. But the grand jury testimony doesn't worry me at all, Dave. That would never come up because it has never happened. It has never happened, and I don't think it'll ever happen. There are good legal reasons for it too. Go on.
Yeah, sure. No, I get it. I get it. And the last one with 2 minutes left was that the Commonwealth Bank has announced that they've backtracked on the AI job cuts and apologises for error as call volumes rise.
Yeah, AI ain't what AI ain't what you used to be.
That's exactly right. And now the crazy AI singers. So that's absolutely right. Now I know that businesses are promoting the use of what's the Copilot in Microsoft. It's contained, doesn't learn anything, to be honest with you. It's as safe and inert as nitrogen. It really is nothing to it. It's kind of useful, but you still got to check all of its work. Otherwise, it'll be on you, right? That's okay. Is it a time saver? It saves little time. And that's pretty much it. I'll tell you, that's it. But that's the most innocuous version of all of the AIs, and all the companies that have been spruiking, oh, AI is the future and we're going to replace all our frontline workers with it. I don't know, how's that going for you? And I ask that question because it's pertinent. Is it where it should be to start replacing people? No. It's like quantum computing, Meki. Is there a quantum computer that's on right now? No. There isn't. It doesn't really exist. It's vaporware. That's the end of the show, Meki. This is the end of another Plato's Cave. You're going to have to catch us on Sunday for Shiny Side Out. Then next Tuesday and Thursday, 7 a.m. for Plato's Cave. And let's just keep our eyes peeled for the stupid that we see in the news every day. And Meki, what do we ask people to do?
Be safe, everyone. You know it.